Hi and welcome back. In this video, I want us to take a look at how to check the types of the variables that you have created and also inspect the addresses of the memory locations where your variables are located. So to do that, I have created a file called checkingtypes.py, and because we have learned about integers and floating point data types so far, I'm going to limit myself to those data types. Okay, so let's create let's bring our good friend age, let's say 45. Let's bring salary, and let's store, let's say 6500.95 in it, and let's check the type of age. So by the type, I mean the data type. Based on what we've learned so far, we know that age is an integer because it is storing what? A whole number that has no decimal point in it. And we can also say salary is a float. So floating point numbers are also known as floats. So we can say salary is a float because it is storing a number that has a decimal point and some numbers after the decimal point. But how do we check this in Python? Well, it is simple. Python has an inbuilt function called type. So the way you use it is you call the type function and you pass in the name of the variable, and that is going to cause Python to tell you the type of that variable, the data type of that variable. And so we can use the print statement together with a type so that we print out the type of the variable. So I can say print, so this is the normal print that we know about, and then I'll say type age. So see what's going on here. I am calling type age to get the type of age, and then we use the print function to print it out to the console. Otherwise, there is no way we can see it. When you call type age, it returns something, but we want to see it on the screen. So we are going to chain it with a print statement so that it prints it out on the screen. Okay, let's do the same for salary. So I'll say print type salary. Let's run this program and let's see what it produces. So I'm going to run with Python 3 checking types.py. You can see that for the first print statement, you are seeing the class int, and the second, you are seeing the class float. And this goes to confirm what I shared with you, that integer data types store whole numbers that have no fractions or decimal point in them, and floats store numbers that have decimal point in them. So Python is able to figure these out, and it is able to tell us that, hey, the age is an integer and salary is a float because of the values that we have set to them. Remember that I mentioned that the values you set to your variables during declaration is what determines the type of that variable. Of course, in the lifetime of the program, the data types can change because Python permits that. But for now, I want you to know that there is a function called type which you can use to check the type of your variables. The next thing I want us to take a look at is, how do you check the addresses? Remember that I said variables are locations in memory where data is stored during the runtime of a program. And I also explained to you that your memory is actually divided into blocks of cells, each of which is uniquely identifiable with an address. So this age and salary are just for the sake of we humans to be able to easily go into memory, put something there, and also fetch something from memory. But as far as the computer system is concerned, it is using a different addressing scheme. So we want to see in our computer's RAM what is the address of the location where age is stored. We also want to see what is the address of the location where salary is stored. It is not a very useful thing that you usually use, but it's good to know how to check. So we are going to do that. All right, so to check the address, Python has an inbuilt function called id. It is similar to the way you invoke the type function. You basically call ID and then you give it the variable name, and Python will tell you the memory address of that variable. So I'm going to chain it once again with a print statement so that we can see it on the screen. So I'll say print the ID of age, and I'm going to print the ID of salary. So I'm going to bring up the terminal again, and then I will run this once again. So these are the print statement, the first two print statements to print the data types, which is for line 4 and 5. And for line 7 and 8, you are seeing these numbers 4, 5, 4, 6, 8, blah, 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 and then 140, blah, blah, blah. So these are the addresses that the computer has assigned to the blocks or the cells in memory where age and salary are stored respectively. And if Python or most programming languages didn't make it possible for you to use human readable names like we have used to be able to address locations in memory, you agree with me that it will be difficult for us to program using such humongous addresses. I mean, this doesn't look appealing when to see, but Python has yet another inbuilt function that can help us to convert these addresses into hexadecimals, because that is one representation, one very common representation in which addresses are represented in your computer. So to do that, you say print the hex of ID of age. Okay, so I'm going to cut this and then I'll call hex and age. Remember that I said hex. Each function call is delimited by a starting bracket and an ending bracket. So you see, print is a function, so it has its own starting and end bracket. Hex, start and end, and the ID also has a start and an end. We're going to do the same thing for the salary also. So I'm going to cut this, I'm going to cut this, and I'll say hex of the ID of salary. And so if we run this program again, we can see that now it is printed in hexadecimal format. I mean, it is still not friendly enough, but it is more presentable and appealing than what we saw previously. So this is how to check the data type and also the memory address where your variables are stored. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video where we learn how to convert from integers to floats and from floats to integers. So I will see you soon.